Great.
Hey, Dalena, we're here. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much.
We're actually a minute early, so I'm going to wait a second before I officially introduce you, but it's great to see you. Tell me where you are again.
So I am in Chandler, Arizona, and we are a suburb of Phoenix.
Oh,
So we call it the Valley or the Valley of the Sun because we hardly get any rain, right? So like we were chatting a little bit earlier, it's still over 100 here at 4 o'clock. And so we're going to be pushing 110 this week, next week. And so, yeah, the Valley of the Sun. So that's where I'm at. And in the
wow.
desert.
Well, it is 7 o'clock. This is the time we said we would start. So I would like to welcome everybody in the Midlife Momentum community. Thank you for joining us. We're here today with Dalena Watson. She's a licensed professional counselor. She's an EMDR clinician, which if you don't know what that is, it's really cool. Look it up. She's a fellow of the Association for Music and Imagery and a board certified music therapist. She's worked in mental health, music therapy, and wellness for 30 years, providing individual and group therapy for people of all ages. Her focus is on helping people rediscover their true selves and heal on a deep spiritual and soul level. She believes that trauma is not a lifelong sentence, and we're all evolving towards ever increasing levels of health. Because she's had to reinvent herself in her personal life and career, she's passionate about helping people in the midlife make transition to the next life chapter. She's here today to offer some insight on how we can approach the second half of our lives with enthusiasm. She will be providing a sample of powerful experience that she uses in groups and individual counseling. Dalena, thanks so much for being here. And I'm sorry for that noise. My Roomba just decided to start while I was talking. I don't know if you can hear that.
That's life. That's real life.
Anyway, this is the real world here. So it says in your work, you talk a lot about the call to take the journey. You want to explain more about that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. In my music therapy training and my advanced training with the music evoked imagery, which is what we're going to do some of today, give you a taste. We really talk about these mythical journeys that we take, that we find that like the hero's journey from mythology and from stories, and we take those inner journeys and we actually have to take them multiple times throughout our lives. So this call kind of is this new thing, right? Things don't feel right and we need to be doing something different. And we all hear the call just a little bit differently, but it calls us to take an inner journey and an outer journey. So things on the inside we'll be exploring and finding out and discovering new pieces of ourselves. And then sometimes our outside has to start changing because our outside doesn't fit as we journey and explore what's going to fit us for this next chapter of our lives.
Wow.
So, yes.
So what are some signs that we might be feeling that the call and to take this journey? What should we be looking for?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ones. And again, just like the inner and the outer journey, there's the inner and the outer calls, right? So the external calls, these are not always really comfortable. These are things like losing your job, getting laid off, AI replacing you, something like, right, some kind of technology change or business change, where suddenly there's this thing that you've been doing and maybe your entire industry is changing, right? So that's an external call. Mm-hmm. Another piece can be deaths. And so that can be a death of aging parents. And now suddenly you're like, oh, I'm the oldest generation, right? We're the ones sitting on the couch and the middle-aged people are here and the children are on the floor, right? Like, so we start to look at that generational hierarchy. So that can happen, or just a death of someone that is close to us will always make us reassess. It gives us the opportunity, right? Midlife divorce can be a big shift. So as you're noticing, a lot of these shifts are not, the external signs to call to journey are not comfortable, right? They're not like, oh, sign me up, I want 2 of those, right? So But divorce is all of a sudden, maybe I'm single, and I'm single at an age where I just lost half or more of my retirement. And for women, this can be a big deal because sometimes we fund the man's retirement and we don't really fund hers because we assume, oh, well, we're going to be together and it's all our money. And then in a divorce, that doesn't always work out that way. But it also gives us this idea of who am I as a single person now and not part of a couple. So I need to journey to find out who I am as that single person. And then sometimes it could be just any news event. Like sometimes we just hear something, maybe it's a really inspiring story. So not all of the externals are bad, but maybe we just hear this inspiring story about this CEO who decides at 50 that he is done with the rat race and he moves to this tropical area and starts a glass bottom boat tour and scuba business, right? And so he's spending his days in this beautiful location giving CEOs glass bottom boat tours on their vacations, wishing they could have his life.
Yeah.
And when we hear about somebody like that does something really bold, that can spark a call within ourselves. Mm-hmm. So those are the externals, a lot of difficult things that are out of our control. But then sometimes those positive inspirations, and they even make us question, well, why not? Why not for me too, right? Then we come to some internal calls, and these can often be missed. So a lot of times in midlife, we have certain emotions coming up, and sometimes depression and burnout is one of them. Mm-hmm. And people think, oh, well, there's something really wrong with me, or suddenly I feel lost. Right? Like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't have any goals anymore. I'm at work and I've just been there. I've done that. I'm so bored. I'm so over it. There's something really wrong with me. But it's not. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, that is the call. The call's saying this situation that you're in, that has worked for you for a long time, is no longer fitting. So I was thinking about, snakes, when they grow, they have to shed their skin multiple times, right? And I don't know if a snake gets itchy or not, because I don't know what they feel. I don't know how we test it. But we do know that they seem to kind of get itchy because they have the natural instinct to start rubbing on things. So like out here, we have so many rattlesnakes and king snakes and stuff that we will find the snake skins if you're out hiking, but they'll start rubbing to kind of peel back that old skin because that old skin has become too tight for them. Mm-hmm. They need a new skin. And I think about this midlife journey that we're not at the end. We're ready to put on a new skin to shed off what isn't working for us anymore and find our new self. And, we're going to reinvent our lives and our identities so many times, right? So think about the teenager that's trying to figure out who they are. They're not a child, but they're not an adult. Right. And they're trying to reinvent and figure out their identity. Then you're in your 20s and maybe you're starting your career. And now all of a sudden, well, who am I if I'm not this kid that can go out and do all this stuff and not care and not get up. I've got some responsibilities, but I'm also starting to notice people are looking up to me. Right. So when you become a parent, you reinvent your identity as well. Priorities change, who you are change. So nothing is wrong with you. If you're feeling lost, if you're feeling burnout or bored, there's nothing wrong. Another way that people hear the call is they start to get really nostalgic for the past. Mm-hmm. And we start to kind of hear about the glory days. And we think about that one relationship that got away, our first true love, right? And this is kind of a longing to capture the essence of that, right? So part of it is looking forward and saying, well, if I was in this like high level athletic performance thing, maybe it was even gymnastics. I work with a lot of women that have been in gymnastics when they were kids and they were doing really high level. Their bodies were in peak performance. And now we're in midlife and our hormones are going crazy and our bodies are going crazy. Right. And we're thinking, oh, right, I wish I had that flexibility and that strength. And,
Right.
right. So we're looking back for elements of what we feel like we're missing now. Some of it might be freedom.
Yeah.
Some of it might be just a reassessment of goals and saying, I always thought I would be at this point, but I'm not. Right. So what do I do now if I'm not here? Right. Call to journey, call to take the journey. I think sometimes there's just a restlessness, and this is what some people really find uncomfortable.
Sure.
They want to do something, but they don't know what they want to do.
Well, Dalena, I'm going to pause for 1 second, and I just wanted to say, everybody in the community, if you have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to just go ahead and make the comment, put the question. We will see it, and we will answer you. And then back to you, Dalena. What I wanted to ask you is, like, what should people do if they're feeling this way? If they're watching this and they're kind of relating to what you're talking about, what should they do?
Well, I think answer the call. This is the most important thing we can do, because these signs, maybe the restlessness or the relationships that aren't working for us, or the job that's so flat that you're dragging yourself to work every day and it's getting harder and harder to go, right? Those signs will get louder. So if you have some restlessness, if you have a feeling of apathy, if you have a feeling of depression, or if you had that feeling of longing, like I just got to break out of my skin and do something, it's going to get louder and more intense for you. And sometimes that's when they do things that maybe are too risky. They maybe leave relationships that they shouldn't, or suddenly just quit their job, or cut people off or whatever. So we want to answer the call. The other part of that is, if you are experiencing some depression with this, that's going to get worse. If you're not actually taking the steps to do something. So when we answer the call, we have to accept what is. This is my life. This is where I'm at. Maybe I got here by a lot of my own choices, and maybe I got here by a few choices from other people that I don't agree with, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what it is. This is where I am. I have to accept what it's not as well. So, we were talking about like the athleticism, or that sense like, well, I could just drop everything and go backpack in Europe for 6 months and work whenever I need food. And that might not work for us. Right. And for our lives, like, we've built a structure. It is possible to dismantle that. But say you're somebody with some pretty severe health problems, you're not going to do those things, right? So accepting, what are my limitations? What maybe have I lost out on? I mean, we're not going to be an NFL player at 50. It's gone. Yeah. Right? So accepting what is, accepting what's not, and what won't be. So I think sometimes, I mentioned divorce, we have this view of, this is my retirement. When we get old together, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And now that's not the reality. So just accepting all of those different places, accepting that change is inevitable. Right. If you're not changing, you're stagnant. And we all know what happens to stagnant water when there's no outlet, right? Yes. So we don't want to be stagnant water in our lives. We want to move forward. So when you answer the call, you need time and space. So for people that are here today, I just really commend you, because you took the time and space to do something for yourself. We have to get quiet. We cannot take the inner journey if we've got all this noise and all of this distraction, right, that drowns out what our inner voice is saying. So we need to slow down. We need to take some time and reflect. Maybe that's some journaling time. Maybe that's some long walks or hikes. I mean, people love to be very physical when they think. So any of those is going to help you start to reconnect with yourself, right? And I think what we're really talking about, if you take the deeper call, this isn't just like, oh, I'm going to move from this department to this department in my job. This is a soul level call. And so we kind of start to go into what's my purpose and what's my purpose now and what gives me meaning now, right?
That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it does. It does. And sometimes people in our lives don't get it, right? Because they know us as one way. And then all of a sudden at this age, we're like, oh, I think it's time for me to go off and do this totally new thing. And everybody's like, no, 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 you're crazy. You're leaving the stability. Why would you take the risk, right? Or you want to go skydiving? That's not you, right? And you're like, well, maybe it is me. I'm not sure yet.
Sure.
So letting go of our ego is a big piece of answering the call. So I don't care that you think I'm crazy because I want to go skydiving. I'm doing it anyway.
Sure.
Right. I don't care if all of a sudden I want to dress differently and I want to express myself differently or, oh, people of your age shouldn't wear XYZ. Well, who says?
Yeah, right.
Right. And how much do you care what they say? Right. Yeah, it's just funny too. Sometimes in the store, I feel like these, 16 to 18-year-old checkers, they're judging me by what I buy. And I'm like, oh, honey, just wait. In 40 years, 30 years, well,
right.
I'm not worried about what you think.
I've seen those articles where they say things women over 50 shouldn't wear. And my favorite part of those when they're on social media is the comments under them says, I'm over 50 and I wear whatever I want.
That's right. That's right. I know. Yeah, absolutely. And there was a woman I ran across professionally who was from another country, and she was so excited to turn 60 that she was telling all her neighbors, all her coworkers, I'm going to be 60. It's wonderful. And everybody's like, shh, in America, we don't tell people our age. And, and she goes, what are you talking about? She says, in my culture at 60, we get to say anything we want. Right?
I like that. I like that.
So you can wait to 60 or you can just start now or wherever you're at, right?
Okay.
So letting go of that ego of worrying about, oh, other people are going to think I'm this or that, or fine, right? Because at the end of the day, you go home with yourself.
Sure.
And you're the only one that has to really know yourself and live with yourself, right? I think another piece is being open to where this journey takes you. So we've been taught to have our 5-year, 10-year plans. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're supposed to have this big business plan. And the journey is not like that, because that trickster archetype comes in and can turn things upside down and new surprises pop up. And maybe I really like skydiving and now I'm going to get certified and then I'm going to be an instructor, right? Like, I don't know. But if we try to regiment our journey, we just block ourselves. We have a smaller dream when we do that. Then we say, oh, let's just open up, right?
Sure.
Another part that's a little harder for some people are the painful feelings. So sometimes we have to visit some painful stuff, some feeling unsettled, maybe, some regrets even. Sometimes, we maybe weren't the most upstanding or nice person in certain situations and we wish we were, or maybe we were too timid and we didn't say yes enough, right? And so we need to be able to work with those painful feelings. If the journey is happening because of a negative external event, and I only say negative because most people think things that are taken away, things that are dying, we look at in our culture as negative, rather than everything has a time and a place, right? But those things can create a lot of loss and a lot of grief, right? And even, I was working with a shop and their 100-year-old building flooded, and they decided, that's it, we're closing. We're going to move on. We're doing something else, right? But there was a lot of grief with that.
Sure.
So being open to sit with those feelings and knowing they're going to pass. You're not going to be there forever. So the last thing that I want to mention before we do our experience is taking responsibility for yourself. taking responsibility that you're here because of your choices. And even if somebody has done something, there's choices of how will I respond, right? What will I do now? What will I do next? I can stay stuck and bitter and sad, or I can make some choices that are going to fulfill my life and put me on a new path, right? So moving to an empowerment mindset, that's part of the journey too. So being open and curious, but also empowered that, I can make some choices and make some steps. So, all right. So this technique that we're going to use is, there's a couple names for it, and I'm going to use the one that's more easy to understand, and it's music evoked imagery. So it's not guided. I'm not going to tell you what to imagine, what to think, but the music is there to stimulate your own imagination. And that's part of taking the journey, is allowing your imagination to free up as well as your intuition. So some people may have visual imagery, and that's great. And it can be like a whole story and a plot line and characters and everything. Sometimes it can just be fragments, or all of a sudden you're in a cave, or all of a sudden you're on a boat. Do not worry about how you got there, because if that was important to your journey, you would have the pieces of how you got there, right? So it's just that, oh, okay, now I'm on this boat. What is this telling me? What's the experience of being on the boat? I would say about 25% of people don't get visual images. And these are the folks that are just so frustrated with, guided relaxation tapes and stuff like that, because they don't see anything. These people are kinesthetic imagers. So kinesthetic means through the body. And so you might feel impressions. You might feel like I'm walking, like a sensation of walking, but I don't see myself walking. You might have the impression that you're with your favorite pet or favorite grandmother or somebody like that, right? But you don't see them. Or an impression that you're standing on a cliff looking out over a vista, but you don't see the vista. Okay, those are kinesthetic imagers. And sometimes people will have emotions. So emotions will come up. Sometimes they come up with a thought or a picture. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just the emotion. So if that happens, just let that emotion just pop up. We'll see what happens there. Intuition is another piece. So sometimes we just know something in our imagery. We'll just know a truth. Sometimes we get messages. So it could be anything from a little rabbit popping up and giving you a wise message to a word written on a door somewhere or a gate, right? And being open to any of these surprises, any of these whimsical things, this is our imagination, but it's also our deep, wise self as well. Once in a while, people will say, well, nothing's happening. Most of the time, that's just right at the very beginning, and they're just not quite relaxed into the experience enough. If it happens later, then we have to work with the nothing as a metaphor and a symbol of what it's like to have nothing happen. What is that like? But most of the time, people are going to have stuff pretty quickly. If you don't, well, let me say it this way. The harder you try to make imagery happen, the less it will. So I would say sit back, enjoy this music. It's a short piece. It's only about 7 minutes, but it has a lot in it to stimulate the imagination. Now, in this music evoked imagery, we always set an intention. So an intention might be to say yes, right? To say yes to the journey. You might not quite be there. So your intention might be to find the courage to say yes. Or maybe you're exhausted. So it's energy to say yes, right? Yeah. So it's okay to your intention can be to gather your resources for the journey as well. And some people might really, they may be a little further down the road and their intention is to let go and step into the journey, right? To let go and find out where this takes me. So any of those intentions, just kind of put them in your mind And then I will give you a short induction to just turn inward. So people can have their eyes open or closed. If your eyes are open, I always suggest find something really boring to look at so that it doesn't distract you. And most people just kind of look down, they look at the desk or their carpet or a blank space on the wall. So, and then I'll start the music and remind you to repeat your intentions silently to yourself, something around the journey, saying yes, getting prepared, something of that nature. And then I will let you know when the music's ended and kind of slowly bring you back. So I'm hoping that not a lot of people are in their cars and they're going to be able to wait.
Don't say you're driving.
I hope they'll actually be able to experience this, but maybe if they can't, they can come back and watch the video because it's going to be posted. So they can come back and fast forward to this part.
Okay.
All right, good. Okay, so just kind of getting your body comfortable a little bit and allowing all the things from the day to just kind of fade away, just fading away off of you. And maybe even allowing the breath to deepen a little bit as you settle more inside the internal world. So letting the external world become less and less important. And just noticing what kind of feelings and sensations your body has, places that are tight or open. Noticing what kind of energy you have in your system, whether you're feeling really buzzy or alive or maybe even depleted. So just noticing the quality of your thoughts. Maybe your thoughts are still kind of rolling along, or maybe they've started to slow and you can start to notice the gap between thoughts. So just allowing the critical voice that says, this is silly, am I doing it right? Let that voice recede so that you just come into a place of beautiful openness. And in this space, go ahead and repeat your intention to yourself, maybe a couple times, and then letting this music come right in, taking you wherever you need to go on this journey. And the music has ended. So taking your time to just gently gather in your imagery, your journey, gather in what was most important so that you can bring that back with you. And then just becoming a little more aware of your surroundings, a little more present in your chair, in your space. In a way, it always feels like waking up for me. So I always like to stretch a little and just kind of open up and just bring myself present, but still in that beautiful space. So for people that are watching, and I know I can't see the chat, but maybe Jennifer can, but if you have things that you want to pop into the chat, a little bit about your journey, I just really invite you to do that. I also invite you to take a little bit of time afterwards, after we're done here, and maybe do a tiny bit of journaling and capture some of the essence of what was most important. And if, whenever I do a group, with a group music and imagery experience, there's always one person who wants to share first because they had this gorgeous, beautiful peak experience. And so they share first. And there's always at least one person that didn't have the gorgeous, pretty experience. And they maybe went to kind of a painful place that needs healing.
Oh.
And then they feel like, oh, I did it wrong. But you didn't, because that's part of the journey too. Right. So I just kind of want to say to anybody that if they didn't feel like they had a gorgeous peak experience, that's okay. That still gave them information, and that is still part of their healing journey. So what comes up is what we need to come up at that moment. So did you, I know this is kind of personal and it's being kind of broadcast out here, but did you want to say anything about the experience itself?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah. For me, what I saw was myself dancing, which is crazy, but it started out where I was on this dry, scorched earth. And all of a sudden there was this like stream of water. And then I saw the earth like just turning green. It just was, and then the rest of it was just me being free, and it was green, and there was water, and it was just lovely.
Yes. So if you put that in context of your intention, what was your intention?
I think I need to always remember what's the most important thing to me, the thing that nourishes my soul. Because I like to do a lot of good things, but not all the
Not everything is nourishing. Yes.
I got to remember to nourish me. And I think that's what that was really powerful. I got that from this.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That is so beautiful. And it does. And it's, as we look at your imagery, yours is, you were very clear, right? Sometimes some people's aren't as clear. So it's okay. Work with the images a little bit, make some associations with it. You know, but I love the fact that the freedom was there, but also it was lush. You had the water, right? You had life sustaining water. You had the vegetation, the landscape, and you weren't like, oh, it was too cold or too hot. It was perfect. And so that's a really beautiful image and feeling to take with you as you say, okay, what makes me feel like I'm dancing in that landscape? Right. Yeah, that's a beautiful journey.
I've got paper here. I'm going to write stuff down when we get out here. So yes, thank you for that.
Yes, you're so welcome. You're so
welcome. We're going to close this up, and I want to thank you so much for your time, and just, you've been so generous with your time and with this. And with that, I want you to share a little bit about what else you're doing and what you can offer people before we say goodbye.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So we just finished a 4-week midlife metamorphosis series, and the women just had great, amazing, powerful images, just like yourself. And we're going to have another one coming up next week. So it's online live. Anybody can sign up. Although I will say it's for women, it's targeted at women. So yeah, women in midlife. So we are going to be talking issues specific to them, but each session is going to be recorded. So you can join live, or you can watch the recording, or you can do both. Right. And then I have a whole private page for us that's going to have actual different resources, additional resources. And then it'll have the recordings on it. But the first session, we get to meet the archetypal alchemist. And from there, we find out how to make something from nothing. And we will be using this music and imagery piece there. And then the second one, we're connecting to intuition through that ancient art of storytelling with Vasilisa, who gets to meet the witch Baba Yaga in the forest. And we'll be using some intuitive mandala drawing. So that is a really beautiful way to start connecting with your subconscious as well. The third one is about being brave and daring to dream. And we have a really inspiring song and inspiring activities and achievements by women who never thought they could be brave enough to do these things. And we'll be using a combination of imagery and intuitive drawing. And the last one is embracing your evolution. So we'll be doing some power statements for you, a cleansing breath meditation, and more music evoked imagery and mandalas. So it's a really transformative packet. And I decided to keep the early bird price. So it's on sale. So you can see all of that. We'll put all those links to my website. It's also on my Facebook page, Dalena Watson Counseling. The event is on there as well. And then I just want to highlight, I have a free mini intuitive mandala course to start connecting to your unconscious, to your imagery and symbols. And so we'll put the link there. That's on Teachable, but you'll be able to find it easily. And then if you really want to deep dive into that subconscious conversations, then I have a 4-week class coming up in August. Yes. And it's called Mandala Magic, Conversations with Your Unconscious. And we're going to deep dive into the colors and the shapes and the symbolism of mandala and what your conscious is telling you on a universal, a cultural, and a personal level. So I've got a lot coming up. A lot for, and like I said, anybody can join those. Mm-hmm. If you did want to do personal counseling, your body has to physically be in Arizona because my license doesn't cover individual therapy outside Arizona. So, or if you fly in and we can do an intensive, like we could fly in and we can do 2 or 3 days of therapy. We can always do that too, but. So I so appreciate this opportunity and an opportunity to share what's really on my heart, because I love this way of working. I love the symbolism and the music, and that connecting deeply with your own soul. So
thank you so much, Dalena. Thank you for the Midlife Momentum community. Thank you for joining us. And Dalena, I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I do as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.